an unrelenting stream of immigration, nonstop. That's not a bad thing. That's a source of our strength.
We all know that the great voter replacement theory is 100% real. And how in the world do we know this? Because it's from their own mouths. That was Joe Biden back when he was vice president in 2015, sitting right next to Alejandro Mayorkas, saying we're going to have an unrelenting, nonstop stream of immigrants coming into this country. Now, why in the world would the Democrats possibly want that? Well, we're going to see that revealed by Texas Representative Brandon Gill in explicit fashion in the House of Representatives. But before we get to these clips, don't forget to like and comment on this video so we break through the algorithms. Here we go.
Nothing excites me more than the thought of President Trump initiating the largest deportation operation in American history. I'd like to remind the committee that the purpose of our immigration system is for the benefit of American citizens, not foreigners or anybody else. For the past 4 years, Democrats have facilitated the invasion of over 10 million illegal aliens into our country. Open borders grow the welfare state, they depress American wages, strain our education and healthcare system, price our working class out of owning a home, and flood our communities with violence and drugs. Americans have learned firsthand that importing the third world will turn America into the third world. So in light of the chaos of the past 4 years, the question that has come up earlier is, why are our Democrat colleagues so determined to flood our country with millions of illegal aliens? And I'd like to suggest that perhaps it's because they benefit from it politically. Remember that every state is apportioned congressional seats based on population, not based on citizenship. Counting non-citizens in congressional apportionment has resulted in more seats for blue states and fewer congressional seats for red states. For instance, excluding non-citizens, California would have an estimated 3 fewer congressional seats. In Ohio, Pennsylvania, and West Virginia, traditionally red states would each have an estimated 1 additional seat. Right now, in a political environment where Republicans have a 2-seat majority in the House of Representatives, the presence of millions of illegal aliens in America could quite literally change the balance of power in our country. But the problem doesn't stop at congressional apportionment. The ultimate goal of mass illegal immigration is mass amnesty and citizenship for illegal aliens, which of course means ultimately allowing them to vote. And that's not a conspiracy theory either. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer himself said it just 2 years ago, and I'm quoting him, "Our ultimate goal is to help the dreamers, but get a path to citizenship for all 11 million, or however many undocumented there are here." That is their words, not mine. And it appears that for the past 4 years, providing a path to citizenship for illegal aliens is precisely what the Biden administration has been doing. This isn't a theoretical or a hypothetical problem. This is happening right now. The political party that has nothing to offer voters but inflation, censorship, and transgenderism is weaponizing mass illegal immigration to their own political benefit. And with that, I yield. Thank you.
It is so refreshing to hear this being called out in the halls of Congress. We all know this is true. We know it's been going on, but many people, many normies out there who haven't been following it have kind of been scratching their heads saying, why in the world is Joe Biden and the Democrats allowing this to happen, right? And once again, it's spelled out plain and simple in their own words, by the way. It's the great voter replacement theory, right? They want to increase the representation in Congress. And of course, they want to increase their voter base, because you might not be aware that yes, the Democrats are actually losing voter registration, whereas the Republicans are gaining in massive numbers. So what do? Oh, let in 10+ million people into this country, register them eventually, and then boom, all of a sudden you have a whole bunch of new Democrat voters and their base is secure, right? That was the real objective of all of this. Never mind the strain it puts on our school system, on our housing system, on our financial system, right? None of that matters. The crime, the hurt they're doing to the American citizens, none of that matters as long as the Democrats get their votes. And thank thank goodness this is being called out, because every single one of these seemingly incomprehensible actions that were taken over the last 4 years had a purpose. And now that purpose has been stymied by Donald Trump. He has put a wrench in the spokes of the illegal immigration system that the Democrats have set up. And thank goodness this is all stopping. But of course, the leftist media and the Democrats are going to come out and oppose it every single possible way they can, as going to be pointed out here by Byron Donalds.
Well, first of all, let's be clear. I think what the president was talking about is, yes, he's going to uphold the Constitution. He's taking advice from his legal team, led obviously by the White House counsel, the Attorney General of the United States, everybody working at the Department of Homeland Security, about all the parameters that they are using to deport illegal aliens out of this country, which is the core of President Trump's victory last November. Let's remember, the American people have been clear that they want criminal illegal aliens, number one, and then illegal aliens overall returned to their home countries. Donald Trump is fulfilling that promise. Now, I think to the broader question in this entire situation, is it okay for the previous administration to abuse the border security laws, abuse asylum, abuse temporary protected status, open up the country to millions of people, and then hide behind due process where it would take us 15 years to actually process people back out of the United States?
And you're talking about the numbers. You're saying there are so many people here that it would just take too long. But let me ask you, I mean, the Constitution says that everyone who's here is entitled to due process. So I understand there are big numbers that you are talking about and that the president is dealing with. But if you're going to follow the Constitution, don't you have to follow what it says by letter and law?
Well, I think first, the other thing is you have to look at this. When you come in, let's say on an asylum package, that is at the discretion of the administration. The administration is now saying, you know what? We are going to have a legal detainer for you to be deported, and you are going to be removed from the United States. That's under the premise of how you came in. Second thing, every illegal alien that came here, the first thing they did is they broke the law coming into our country. They broke the law. Let's level set here. That's what they did. So there is an orderly process that the president and his team is going through. They're not just rounding up people and dropping them out of the country. That is not true. Everybody that's been deported to this point has had a legal deportation order executed by the president's administration.
But in this case, in the case of Kilmer Abrego Garcia, the administration said it was an administrative error. And in 2019, an immigration judge issued an order that's still in effect that he should not be deported back to El Salvador. And I guess this goes back to the question that I was asking to President Trump. Do you think that everyone, citizens and non-citizens, are entitled to due process?
Well, first and foremost, let me be clear with you. When it comes to due process, that is a privilege reserved for American citizens. When people are in our country illegally, there is a semblance of due process, but not nearly at the level of a United States citizen, of an American. There are two different standards. You come to America, you are a guest in the United States. That privilege can be revoked. And a lot of these illegal aliens were not guests. They showed up at the southern border. Joe Biden abused our laws, ignored our laws, and let them in.
And yet,
so what are the American people supposed to say about that?
Well, the Constitution, I mean, let me just read you. This is the Fifth Amendment. No person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime unless a presentment or indictment of a grand jury, except in cases arising in the land or naval forces. And then it goes on to say, nor shall any person be subjected for the same offense to be twice put in jeopardy of life, limb, nor shall be compelled in any criminal case to be a witness against himself, nor be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. So the Constitution says any person, not citizen. And therein lies the debate and the root of my question. I mean, does any person just apply to citizens in your mind, or does it apply to citizens and non-citizens? The Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, says it applies to citizens and non-citizens.
Well, let's be very clear. First and foremost, when the framers wrote our Constitution, they never envisioned that there would be an executive that would allow millions of people to come into the country illegally. They never fathomed that. Number two, more importantly, you have a situation right now. Is it okay for any administration to not follow the law, abuse border security laws, let millions of people in, and then hide behind the court system to say, well, now they're here, so now we have to go through a lengthy process? Let's examine this right now. Right now, what we know is that when people came into the country illegally, almost 90% of them would not even go to the hearings. So if you're supposed to show up for a hearing and you do not go, what are we supposed to do as a country?
Very
at that
quickly.
point?
I love the way Byron Donalds really spells this out very clear, right? Even though Kristen Welker over here is going to go ahead and read the Constitution, right? Due process, etc. All of the people Donald Trump is deporting has had due process. They already have orders to be taken out of this country. And how in the world did they get that? Oh, they had their case brought before a judge. And in many instances, as Byron Donalds actually brings up, they don't even show up, which of course probably why they have those orders in the first place, okay? So we have a huge backlog, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of orders, deportation orders to get people out of this country. But apparently that's just not good enough for the left, all right? They want a grand jury brought up. They want an actual show trial for each and every one of the 10+ million illegal immigrants in this country, even though it's closer to 20, right? And this process would take hundreds of years if they actually went that route. However, we have these simple immigration proceedings, one after the other. Show up, get them in, get them out, get them deported, right? Simply because you're saying, oh, you came into this country illegally, you have therefore broken our laws and you're gone. All right? That's all you have to do. And I love the way Byron Donalds points this out. We have basically a different level of standard for citizens than we do have for the illegal immigrants. And how in the world do we know this? Because we already have laws on the books, and a simple Google search will kind of reveal the whole process to you. A deportation order, also known as a removal order, is obtained when a non-citizen is deemed removable from the United States by an immigration judge in an immigration court. This process typically begins with the Department of Homeland Security issuing a notice to appear, which requires the individual to appear in court to defend against the removal. If the individual fails to demonstrate that they should not be removed, the judge issues a deportation order. That is the due process. That is the law. That is what Donald Trump is following. Okay, he's not just rounding up people and then shipping them overseas. In the case of Abrego Garcia, I almost wish at this point Donald Trump would just say, all right, we're going to take him out of El Salvador and send him to Argentina, right? Malay can have him at this point. But either way, he's not coming back because he had a deportation order. But the one place he wasn't supposed to go is where he ended up. And I'm okay with that because he wasn't supposed to be here in the first place. So cry all you want, leftists. Your game has been exposed and the American people don't like it because it's actually hurting American citizens. As was mentioned in the first segment, yes, if you import the third world, you get the third world. And we are done with that. So thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, and say hi to your mom for me.